cheeky little bounce. Oh, well done. Runs towards goal. It's a chance. It's as good as you'll ever see. Oh, well done, Sauce. Hey, you like Pez? From the boundary line.
Hello and welcome to Behind the Boundary podcast. I'm your host Pez. I'm here with Sauce and we have a very important business to get to tonight because have a look at the attire of Sauce. He's put on the suit to mourn the death of Geelong in 2023.
Not to mourn the death of Geelong. I'm here because I mean business. After last week's disappointing round for me, I mean business. We're not mourning the death. I think last round was just the round of upsets, Pez. You know?
Well, it was.
The horizon is high for us. You know, if we're riding off every team that lost, well then, goodbye Port Adelaide, goodbye Brisbane. You know, you
should have said Collingwood being on top of the ladder.
Yep.
Well, how's this? Collingwood lose on the Friday night on top of the ladder, and then people have an opportunity to play a little bit of catch up. Brisbane failed. Losing to Gold Coast. Port Adelaide failed, losing to Adelaide as well. No Isaac Rankin and upset City. The biggest win might have not had nothing to do with the finals, which is West Coast getting a win over North Melbourne. And North Melbourne, they're in a bit of turmoil. That is not good for them.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's not unfamiliar territory for North Melbourne, but it is disappointing that they're going to be speaking about this sort of stuff like that. It's just a shambles. It's
just the norm, and you kind of we're desensitized to it really because we just expect them to be shit, and it's not good because you just sometimes you feel for a couple of these clubs and what's going on. Like Jack Zeeble, been there for so many years, and he's got an emotional retirement speech throughout the week, and he's tearing up. He's made so many good friends, but he hasn't had many wins on the field and things like that. So it still means a lot to the people that are there, but the club, in terms of winning in the AFL, it's down in the dumps.
Definitely down in the dumps. But let's not sit there and mourn the death of North Melbourne. That happened almost 15 years ago. So let's really talk about the
15.
About 15 years ago.
Oh, even when they made those prelims,
they were false prelims. Yeah. Frank the Tank, that was probably the Drew Petrie. That was about 15.
The Millennium, 2000, dead.
Oh, dead. Okay, well, it's more than 15. Exactly right.
It's 23 years.
The interesting part about this, there's only a couple of weeks left. It's set up for a great final run home, but there are 6 teams on 9 wins outside of the 8. So only a few games and 4 points separate basically 14th Pez and making the 8. So the race is alive. We've had the massive winning streaks from GWS and Carlton really sort of stamping their authority on a finals berth. And tell you what, Pez, I don't know which was more impressive. GWS's win, coming back in Ballarat against the Dogs, or Carlton's win, playing and just absolutely dominating from about that third quarter onwards. Well, probably that second quarter onwards, really, but it was just pure dominance from Carlton and an amazing comeback from GWS.
Yeah, and the Pies supporters were still there, and I just wanted to check Twitter to see what was happening, and they turn on their own really, really quickly. I saw them say, we've got our best team ever, there's no way we're losing to Carlton. People posting videos, calling Carlton supporters out and everything, and then it just all went to water, and then you know what they say? Oh, we're still on top of the ladder.
Yeah,
you can't win.
I mean, that's where they didn't win, yeah. But that's what you could have the power to do. I mean, Collingwood is in a great form. They've been the team to beat all year. They were definitely due. They were slowly coming into this loss, and Carlton have just been a really lucky team about the teams that they've played. Port Adelaide, they were due for a loss. Collingwood, they're due for a loss. They're playing teams at the right times, but then again, they still have to win them. So Collingwood, they weren't looking disorganised last week. They don't look, they basically were really inaccurate. They kicked 10-16 and Carlton hit them at a great time. They were due for a loss. I would expect them to bounce back this week. But GWS Pez, they have come from absolutely nowhere. The orange tsunami is back. It's incredible.
It is unbelievable, and they're about to field probably their strongest team for the year coming up in this round against Sydney, the hometown rivals there. So all on the up for GWS at the moment. If they can snag 5th or 6th and get a home final at Giant Stadium, get a whole 2,000 people there to watch them, it'd be a great atmosphere.
It definitely would. Del Santo came out in the week and talked about how GWS possibly had vibes of the Richmond side when they came from out of nowhere in a massive winning streak and to win their first premiership in a long time. And tell you what, Pez, wouldn't we'd be back on the orange paint, wouldn't we? We'd be getting it back out.
Oh, I don't know. I've never met a Giants fan in my life, so I would not mind if they're going to win if it's not my team. So that's very good. Let's review round 20.
Soft review. It's no official review. How does it end? We don't know. They kind of lost, but they won as well.
I kept it simple. Round 20 Sauce. I had just 3 bets in the end. We went Brisbane wire to wire with a couple of other legs for insurance. Nothing ended up getting up. Brisbane were down in the first quarter, came back to lead by 7 at quarter time, and then they were down at halftime and just got demolished by the Suns. And the Suns, they've grown up, beaten the bigger brother, and Brisbane, that's really costly for them because they had an opportunity to take a top 2 spot, especially with Adelaide beating Port Adelaide that night as well. So really disappointing from Brisbane there. So I lost 2 units, didn't even get a bonus. Sunday came around, Wanganeen Malira 25 plus, 10 in the first quarter, 10 in the second quarter. I only got 3 in the third quarter, but I only needed him to get 2 more touches for the 25 plus at $1.92 there. Sauce, he ended up with 33 or something around that realm, and they had a big win against Hawthorn as well. So because I was down, it was $1.92. The only reason I put out a bet on the Sunday was because, you know what, I'm just going to try and put out a unit here and try and get into the positive. So I put a unit on Melbourne at $1.57, and this was a topsy-turvy game. There wasn't much defence happening, and it was a very high-scoring game. Melbourne ended up getting the chocolates in the end in the fourth quarter, and I got a handy 0.41 unit profit for the round to take my profit for the season over 30, so 30.07 units. So I was quite happy with that.
As you would be, Pez, you're walking away with a round full of profit. And I said my round that I was here to have business because I missed the mark last week. Geelong, they have a hoodoo against Fremantle, and I should have read more into the last couple of losses that they've had there, and they've all been through Fremantle, and they've all been smashed on the line. And, that game, let alone win, Geelong didn't even get close to the minus 70, the minus 61, and minus 46. So.
That was a big outlay from you and confidence with your own team, and it hurts a little bit more when it's your own team that let you down. But to not even get the win and to have a loss, it might mean the difference between finals and not finals at the end of the season. So they need to really turn it around this week. Can they lose 2 in a row at GMHBA against Port Adelaide?
It'll be really interesting, and I definitely will speak about this in the bet slip, but I love the value with Port Adelaide there. I'm so very surprised with those odds, but I did get back out. I did get on the board for 1W this round. Sydney moneyline against Essendon. I was absolutely loving that, and thank you, Papley, for helping me out there. But that paid out at halftime, so I was really happy with that one. And the $1.71, 2 units for that one. Escaped a little bit, but actually no, I didn't, because Bluebet helped me out with that one. So really happy with that. And I should have stuck to my own advice and not gotten greedy. But because I was down 3.5 units, I went a little bit for the player disposals. After we spoke about the games on Saturday last week, and how they took so long to get out, I definitely focused in on that. I should have stuck to just Nash, Warple, and Newcomb all over the 20, and that also looted. But the alternate lines definitely got me. And
you went for a big one, 550 odds. It's not always going to get up. So
no, but like one of the things that I did learn from watching is just being mindful of we have been really flogging the Hawthorn disposals, but Sammy Mitchell's putting some interesting moves and different. He's trialling some things in there at the moment, which means that a lot of the CBAs are down for a lot of those guys, and there's inconsistencies there. So
there's inconsistencies with Hawthorn's performances in the last couple of months. So you read into that what you will. So for the round for the season is more importantly.
Yeah, for the season, 153 units staked. 155 units staked, and profit loss of 62.87. So we have hiccups every now and then. So a loss for the last round is okay, but an ROI of 40.8. I'm pretty stoked with that, Pez. For the season, we've been sitting at is that 92? Yeah, 92 we're sitting for overall, so that's incredible for us, and we just have to keep chipping away and continually to make profit. So I'm pretty confident we'll bounce back this week.
Yeah, well, let's get it, round 21.
The fact that the size of the bets was relatively small.
Now Bex with an opportunity about 50 metres out.
I was with a mate, and we were getting sort of ready to leave, and he said, I think I'm going to whack 10 on Maxi. Do you want some as well? And I said,
Oh, yes! Yes! Yes!
Straight into the specials.
Cyril takes a special and goes bang!
Not much to report on the specials. We've got Blue Bet. Sportsbet still haven't pulled their finger out. So have a look around if anything comes out. What the betting bookies are doing at the moment is they're sending individual personalised things to some people to try and enhance them to deposit and to bet more. So if you get something like that, take advantage of it if you can. If not, that's going from there. The other thing that is very special is we haven't been interrupted yet, Sauce, but we could be interrupted mid recording here, and I could be on my way to the hospital because we did make it to the recording, which is great. But it is
it's only one step of the way. We probably shouldn't have sat there talking for so long, Pez, with how urgent it is on Baby Watch Pez 2023. So hopefully you've done your homework in the lead up to it, and you didn't just pencil in that it was going to be cancelled this week. And you can. Hopefully, your partner can hold off until the weekend's finished and maybe get a Monday job done so you can still watch some footy.
Oh, I've got to try and avoid some winners. I don't know what I'm going to do. Carlton St Kilda, because my daughter was born in November, so there's no footy in November. It was fine, but St Kilda Carlton's a pretty big game on the Sunday. If we're in that labour room, it's not a very nice place to be. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, but it might be better watching the Saints throw away a win. So it could be the better place, the better alternative, Pez. But any other specials to talk through before we get going?
No, nothing.
No, nothing.
Shit all.
Just absolutely shit all. And sportsbets generally tend to do this leading up to finals. They normally have a couple of rounds where they don't have any specials, but because then they have a big special for the AFL final. So
that's what we're going to hope to
hopefully
take advantage of.
They're looking for all finals pairs. It wouldn't be nice the money back no matter what. Hopefully that is the same game multi special that they've had for most of the year. That'd be great.
Lead at quarter time and get paid out.
Bring back that gem. That was the best one ever. All right, let's speaking of footy, let's get into the Friday night clash. Western Bulldogs taking on Richmond. $1.50 favourites are the Doggies. $2.50 for outsiders Richmond Tigers. -13.5 is the line. Over under 168.5. Pez, really interested. Both of these teams are, well, it's not both of these teams, but Richmond is one win away realistically from getting into the 8. Western Bulldogs, the winner of this game, will go into the 8 for a short period of time over the weekend. But both clubs heaps to play for.
Oh, it's absolutely huge. Richmond, they were in a winning opportunity against Melbourne. I spoke about it before. They were 20 points up throughout that game, but they just couldn't keep it up. They're very, very inconsistent this year, especially after they lost Tom Lynch. They haven't had a good season. We're hearing that Damien Hardwick left. He's been gone, a month, and he's going to sign a 5-year deal to coach the Gold Coast Suns, apparently. So he didn't really want to, continue coaching Richmond. He just wanted a new job. Andrew McQualter has stepped in there, and he seems to be doing a good job. He seems to be making the right adjustments at the right time. And Richmond, it's just a bridge too far this Friday night, I think, because the teams are out. I love the Ed Richards inclusion. I love the Liam Jones inclusion, especially with Josh Bruce being injured there and going out of the Doggies there. But Richmond, they're resting or managing, as they say in the thing, Dustin Martin and Trent Cotchin. So if Dustin Martin is not playing, I am not liking the Tigers at all. So I've gone to Blue Bet. I've put 3 units out there, which is my equal biggest bet of the season, on the Bulldogs to win at $1.50.
Yeah, I'm all with you, Pez. I like the Bulldogs, especially at Marvel. For me, it was a surprising move for them to not sort of go full strength, the Tigers, especially with the momentum that they're going. I expect a really defensive game for this one. I think that the Tigers have really adjusted the way they're playing over the last month, and the Dogs, as we know, they just sort of chip the ball around. But I'm expecting a really defensive sort of game. I would be all over the Bulldogs. I am going to just hold off on a little bit. I think that can come out a little bit. I think that we can probably get a little bit more value there than the $1.50, because I think that those Tiger fans would be comfortable putting a bit of money on that one. So after I put that bet down, I'll also be looking at disposals pairs. Both of these sides, Richmond and the Dogs, are both top 6 sides giving away disposals to defenders. So really target those defenders and those main midfielders for the Bulldogs as well. Specifically, if you're looking at Martin out as well, they're probably going to really, really rely on that defence.
Yeah, I think more money will come in for the Dogs here, and
You
I think it'll close around $1.45. So
Do you reckon? Do you really think?
I think so. So if you can get some money that's above $1.50 that you think in the closing, yeah, definitely take that because that'd be pretty good value.
What is it on Bluebet at the moment?
$1.50 when I screenshotted it a few hours ago.
Okay.
I'll go the live check.
Have a look at the live check. 'Cause if that's the case, then if you really think that, then
$1.47 already.
Shit. All right, I might like 2 units on that one as well, then, Pez, because I do like. I'm surprised that Richmond have gone in with the managed and rested with Martin. That really surprises me. And you know, we know that Richmond don't like travelling to Marvel either. That was another factor. You know, we know that they bitched and moaned when they had to play games there. They don't like the surface there. They don't like the ground. They don't like the short drive from Punt Road, Pez, all the way up there. But lock that in for me for 2 units, then $1.47. Cool. I'll just talk to myself. Well, let's get on to the Saturday game. $1.04 favourites are the Bombers. $10 outsiders West Coast coming off their second win of the season. Minus 53.5 is the line. Over under 176.5. Pairs. Do the Eagles make it back-to-back wins?
Well, I hope so. That'd be great to see. Essendon had a big, you know, they were losing by 37 points against Sydney, came roaring back in that fourth quarter, and it ended up being 2 points, but it wasn't really, they didn't really have a chance to steal it because Sydney kicked the sealer a few minutes before that to go 8 points up. So Essendon kicked a goal in the dying seconds to get it to 2 points. But if West Coast could come down, they've got a couple of players retiring. We've heard during the week. The thing we usually look at against West Coast, especially away from home, is goal kickers. So, but Peter Wright and Cole Langford, who have been kicking goals really well for Essendon this year, they're very low priced, $1.10 and $1.20. Not to score one goal source, but to score two. So you'd have to be looking elsewhere. You're thinking
$1.09 for 2 metre Peter to kick 2 goals is ridiculous. $1.09.
Silly.
That's incredible. That blows me away, bookies.
Yeah, well, you can't bet on it. You can't put your own money on it. Like what you could do, the opposite of $1.10, whatever it is, $5.50. You put money on that if you could, and maybe he might get subbed out of the game. Maybe he might have an injury or something.
Yeah, you bet it for me. I actually really like the value in this one. And if you're going to look at goal kickers, because that's what you generally target, I like the 40 plus because Essendon are going to need to make up a percentage. Get $1.50 for, I think it's actually, it was $1.50 earlier in the day. I think it's $1.46 now. It's already come in the 40 plus. That line is, you know, it gives you a bit more freedom. 13 points on that line. And then if you're looking for goal kickers pairs, most goals is where you're probably going to look. Peter Wright, 230. Kyle Langford, 335. So that's great value, and then you're not relying on them having to get 3 or 4 because, you know, they could get, 2 or 3 and be most goal scorers. So if you partner those two up, pairs, that gives you odds of $3. I'll probably look to find another disposal market in there. I expect the ball to go down their heap considering West Coast have basically shut their back line out, and they had that win last week. So, premiership hangover, pairs. Well, they've won their second game, and they put a lot of investment into that last week against North Melbourne. Travelling to Melbourne, everything points to a big Essendon win. Yeah,
no interest in it for me. I'll save my money for another battle.
Maybe you'll save your money for this one, pairs. Adelaide taking on Gold Coast, $1.29. Favourites, the Crows, $3.50 outsiders. The Suns, minus 22.5 is the line. Over, under 174.5. Pairs, surprisingly, after a massive win, Adelaide keep their season alive and their finals hope alive. They'll be absolutely kicking themselves that they dropped some of those earlier ones where they were leading at crucial times in the game.
There's a few games earlier in the year. They played against, they lost to GWS twice. Mm-hmm. They had big leads against them. They had a big lead against the Gold Coast as well up in Darwin and lost that one. If they win 2 out of those 3, they're definitely playing finals probably.
Well, they're sitting 11 September. Wins. They're fighting for a top 6 spot.
It is absolutely unbelievable that Adelaide have done that to themselves. But when they're on, they're on. And they move the ball really well. And when they're not, they just get dominated and ran through. Now, the big news coming in is your man, Took Miller, a little bit of ball grabbing and things going on, a bit of ball tampering happening throughout the week.
Are you talking about the POMs and the ball switch that went on there?
No, that's another issue in itself. But
can we quickly just talk about that? Wow, the like-for-like ball and that ball switch was disgusting. Like the amount of memes that came out of that and looked like one of those tennis balls with the tape on it, absolutely incredible.
Oh, it's great. A brand new pill, and it swung a mile when it came out that second one, didn't it?
Was like, I think 33% compared to 13% of playable shots was the metrics after the ball change. Incredible.
And what I am absolutely spewing about is the rain, because the rain cost me watching that second session of the last day of that last test there, Sauce, because I fell asleep because of the rain delay. The replay was on, and woke up to a 49-run loss by the Aussies and a drawn Ashes series. So there you go.
Yeah, not a good way to spend the evening, Pez, especially when you're staying up there. But what are you thinking in this game? Adelaide, obviously, at home have been a different sort of side. Take out that disappointing loss a couple of weeks ago to GWS, but they've been a very positive side at home compared to the Gold Coast, who since Stewie Dew has been sacked, they're 2-1. So it's some decent sort of change around, I guess, in the way that they're playing.
Yeah, without Took this week as well, that's a big loss, because he's been playing well and he's been building. But yeah, going over to Adelaide's been a hard job. GWS were able to do it a few weeks ago, so can the other expansion club do it to keep their season alive? It's definitely season on the line. Whoever loses will not be playing finals.
Yeah, definitely.
No bet.
I have to be all over Adelaide here. Adelaide still have the second best offense in the league. They're playing at home. Tex Walker, we probably don't talk enough about him. He's going to be named All Australian this year for sure, and he's not even going to be probably the Coleman medalist, but he's in ripping form. I'd be all over Adelaide, but $1.29, there's not much value there. So let's get on to the Saturday twilight time slot. Hawthorn taking on Collingwood, $4.90. Outsiders the Hawks, $1.17. Favourites are Collingwood, -32.5 is the line. Over under 170.5. Pez. Hawthorn, they were disappointing last week. Your Saints really did a number on them, especially with the way that they've been performing the last month or so, really testing a few sides. And you were really worried coming up against the Hawks last week.
I was really worried coming up against the Hawks, because you don't know what you're going to get with them. Their midfield's been playing really well, but it's MCG, it's twilight, it's Collingwood coming off a loss. The big news at Collingwood is, well, it's not big news because it should have happened as soon as they signed him, but Mason Cox has been dropped. He got subbed out last week and he wasn't happy, the arrogant American there sitting on the bench with his little sub jacket on. So I think that's the best thing that could have happened for Collingwood last week, to lose that game, to have Mason Cox again have no impact, because what they get now is they get a way better functioning forward line and a way better functioning ruck, whatever you call it, around the ground. So I think Collingwood are going to be a lot stronger. Ash Johnson in. He does make mistakes, but he gives them some mobility. He can take a high mark. Daniel McStay is going to build towards being able to provide that other forward up there as well. And Bobby Hill is a must to be into that Collingwood side, because he gives them a little bit of excitement, a little bit of speed when the ball's on the ground. So I really, really like this Collingwood team, and I think this is actually the strongest Collingwood team that they've fielded for the season. So I think that they're going to win really, really well. But I don't want to put my money on them at that price, $1.17 there. So what I've done is I've looked at their forward line. Their forward line's going to restructure a little bit. They're not going to have that big useless twin tower Mason Cox down there taking up space and not knowing what he's doing. So I think Daniel McStay at $2.12 on Sportsbet is a little bit of value for 2+ goals. So that's where I'm going to head, and I'll put my money down there.
No, I love that, Pez. I mean, Hawthorn, we know one of the deficiencies they have has been against tall forwards. Mason Cox would have been an absolute fill up for him this week. So they'll be loving. He'll be disappointed that he's out of the running for that. But McStay would be perfect sort of replacement there. I don't mind looking at disposals for this one. As I said, I'm being a bit mindful of the swapping that Mitchell is doing in there. But if you can go, Nash, Newcomb, and then pick between Warple or Day for 25. Nash and Newcomb for 20 each. Just sticks nice and basic for them. And then pick either Warple or Day to go over the 25 mark. That'll give you odds about $2.02, $2.03, depending which way you go. But as I said, you got to be mindful which one you pick, because you can have that wrong. But that's probably where I'll be leaning. It'll just be disposal cities. And I'd also probably be looking at Hawthorn have been doing a really great job at tagging as of recent. So, looking at some of those the over-under markets on day cost, I think, will be something that you can look at. I know that his odds for 30 or more disposals are sitting at $1.85, so you probably look at him to get under 30 disposals. Look at what the market is being there. He's taken some big scalps. Well, he's not the Irishman, but would be a little bit racist then, isn't it? But the Hawthorn rookie, so that's it's something that you could probably look for a bit of a play there as well.
Yeah, and then Collingwood fans will turn out in drones, dribs and drabs, and there'll be a big crowd.
They'll be flying around there.
They could. They definitely could. It'll be,
cool. Good
not
chat. Cool. Let's get on to one of the games that has huge implications in the top four finishing, mainly for Port Adelaide. Geelong $1.56 favourites. Port Adelaide at $2.38. This is down at Alphabet Stadium. Minus 10.5 is the line. Over under 164.5 Pez. It's a rarity for Geelong to lose 2 in a row, let alone 2 in a row, going for a third in a row at Alphabet Stadium. So it'll be interesting to see how the Cats respond in this one, Pez.
They've got no choice because they're sitting 2 points out. It was a guaranteed win last week. Should have been. Absolutely guaranteed win. And Fremantle took it up to them. Geelong came back and got the lead in that third quarter. And Fremantle went into another gear again. And it was so disappointing to see for that Geelong team. So are they tired, premiership hangover? There's lots of different things that have happened. I know they've had injuries and things, but you've got to have a deep list and you've got to be able to do some things. There's some big outs as well. Tom Hawkins hurt his hamstring last week, and then Blixar's injured as well. So that's not going to help. But
that's really where last week the game really shifted, Pez, is because they had to do a whole lot of shuffling, and they were 3 goals up against Fremantle when Blitzars went down, and they just weren't able to shuffle properly. And that was played a huge factor in it.
Yeah, so Noah Lear as well after that big incident where he had that big clash with Lockie Jones, and he's not playing either. So it'll be interesting. GMHBA at night. I had a bit of a look at scoring at GMHBA Sauce, and the night games seem to be a lot higher scoring as well. The goals seem to flow a little bit more, and they do usually play interstate sides at night at GMHBA as well. No Hawkins. Who stands up in the forward line to kick the goals? There's no value in Cameron for two.
It'll be my man, Ollie Henry. It'll be Ollie Henry's back.
I saw him as second favourite, but you look down the list a little bit, and Gary Rowan stands out a little bit for 2+ at $2.35. So yeah, nothing locked in yet, but just leaning towards that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really surprised that this game's not $1.80 each way at Pick'em, because Port Adelaide being one of the top sides, they demolished the Cats last time that they played, really broke them open in that third quarter. As you remember that game at Adelaide Oval when Patrick Dangerfield kicked a beautiful goal to salute for me. I'm still loving that one. But I'm really surprised at this. My money would if I wasn't a Geelong man, would be all over Port Adelaide at the 238. That is a bargain for a 50-50 game. Even a little bit more, conservative, you'd be looking at the 10.5. You could have got 11.5 early in the day, but being a Geelong man, I'm not going to put any units down on this one. There's no market for disposals. There's no market for goal kickers, I don't think. As you said, it could be Rowan, it could be Stengel, it could be Ollie Henry. He could actually do something finally when I haven't got any money on him. But it'll be interesting to see how this game unfolds. Super, super pivotal for Geelong to bounce back as a supporter. So I will hopefully, Pez, be sitting down and watching this in real time, not on delay, hopefully.
Yeah, you're saying you like the value at Port Adelaide, so I don't know. If I'm obviously not a Geelong person, but to go against Geelong at GMHBA, it's just been not profitable over the years.
So exactly right. But I think that if you're looking at the game on its merit, the home ground advantage is not worth 80 cents. It's not worth 80 cents turnaround, I don't think. And if it is worth that much, then the line should reflect that, and it definitely doesn't. So for me, I think that there is some value there because this game should be about 50-50 sort of game, I think.
Yep, and we get to, I don't even know what you call it, Battle of the Bridge.
Battle of the Bridge. Well, is it the Battle of the Bridge if it's not in Sydney? It's in Canberra, this one, I think. So Battle of New South Wales.
Giants Stadium, Western Sydney.
Yeah, sure, right. All right, GWS taking on Sydney. $1.63 favourites are the Giants. $2.25 outsiders the Swans. Minus 6.5 is the line. Over under 158.5 Pez. Had some huge news during the week. That's Big Buddy Franklin has retired. Really disappointing that he's not having a farewell game. That was really disappointing as AFL fans not being able to see him celebrated in the last game.
Yeah, well, it's the car park that they play on at Marvel Stadium, isn't it? They damaged his calf. No good. What are they going to do to fix that ground?
What can you do for that, Pez? There's nothing you can do about it.
You have to put more soil on top of that concrete.
I mean, it's so funny that it's been talked about. I mean, I don't know if you've ever played, there's a basketball stadium nearby when I was a junior that we played, and it was built on a concrete slab, and they didn't have floorboards. They just had this like blue sort of pastel-y. It was
like a paint.
It was like a paint.
Yeah.
And I remember playing there as a junior, and my feet and my body killed after. And listening to AFL players, they say that it takes an extra couple of days to recover after playing at Marvel. And I don't know how you can fix that. Like the stadium is not designed, funnily enough, just for football. It's designed as a entertainment complex. But it needs to be addressed. Like I don't know how you actually address it without putting Marvel out of action for a good 6 months.
Yeah, it's they've got to look at it in the off season. The AFL do own the venue, so
they just keep saying play there, suck it up.
Yeah, but something that might need to be looked at. But speaking of the Giants and the Swans, Jesse Hogan and Tom Green come in, which are two absolutely massive ins for the Giants. The only thing that has me a little bit worried about this game is because it's the little brother, big brother type thing. It's another derby type clash. So things do happen, but I like the Giants to go through this. They are on a bit of a winning streak, so I'm just leaning towards the Giants at Blue Bet at $1.60 at the moment. But I'll put that out on Twitter if that ends up going ahead there, Sauce.
Yeah, you're right. The Giants have been in absolute ripping form. The two sort of metrics that really stand out to me is the over. I know the Giants have played quite low-scoring affairs, but I imagine this game to sort of break open a little bit. I think just the way my metrics have it, the 158.5 is quite low. I would see in this game probably sit the 160, maybe even the 175 mark. 165, 175 mark. And the other one that stands out is Toby Green for most goals. The 255 there, he is by far the shortest. Jesse Hogan's probably the only other one that may sort of pop up and challenge him for most goals. But 255 for me is an absolute bargain. $7 for Hogan and Papley $7.25. Like, it's incredible that he's such short value. So I don't mind that as well. And he has been in ripping form as of late.
Look into some similar markets. There we go. And Sunday footy left. It seems like an eternity away, but there's a big game here. Huge
game. North Melbourne taking on Melbourne. $7 outsiders, the Kangaroos, $1.10 favourites. Melbourne minus 42.5 is the line. Over under 172.5 Pez. North Melbourne were disappointing last week. They made a charge late, but Melbourne has been the story of the season that people really aren't talking about. They've shifted that offense, Pez, and we've spoken every single week in the lead up to this how profitable Melbourne has been, that offense that they're running at the moment. Petty came in there and kicked 6 goals.
6. That's
incredible. I was looking at odds that he was sitting about 501 to kick 6 or more goals. Apparently 3 or more goals was sitting about $150. That's incredible.
I don't know, 150.
That's what what X said. The people on X that said that.
Forget about that. Elon Musk with his X. No, yeah. If you know a defender's going to go forward. We've received news throughout the year, Source, of defenders going forward, which is
wrong news.
Yeah, which is to be kept under a lid. But when you do have that information, you're like, oh, they're playing forward. Do I put them down for a couple of goals? Maybe yes, maybe no. It can work out in your favour, and I don't think anyone would have been on Harrison Petty. Someone send in your bet slip if you happen to be on even 2+ or 3+ goals, because that was a great bet. In the end. But Melbourne have to go down to Bloodstone. It's not great. North Melbourne, the demeanour around the club just can't be great at the moment. After how many losses in a row? Was it 18 losses in a row or something?
Their last win was round 2.
1-2 in a row. Lost every game since. It's just unbelievably bad.
Poor North Melbourne.
And Melbourne,
and they're not even going to get the number 1 pick for how bad they've been, because there's been a team worse than them this year. That must be so disheartening for North Melbourne fans.
So bad. But we spoke about the restructure since Bailey Fritsch's injury, and blessing in disguise, because Jake Malcolm's come in. I think he keeps his spot for finals. I've spoken about that before. I think Petty might even, play up forward a little bit and be the key target. Then they don't have to play like a Tom McDonald up there, which hasn't worked for many, many years. And one ruckman, Max Gawn. No Brodie Grundy. He's just there for insurance now, and might look to get a trade at the end of the year, Brodie Grundy, because the duo didn't work, and just down to one with Max Gawn rucking 80% of games, and they'll just fill in the rest. So Melbourne should get the win. No betting down in Tassie for me.
I'm spewing this game is actually in Tassie. If this game was played in Melbourne, I'd be all over Melbourne, just absolutely ripping apart North Melbourne. They had their biggest win of the season, Melbourne against North Melbourne earlier in the year.
Oh, that was.
It was a really, really disgusting game. And if you look at how much better Melbourne are now and the offense that they're playing, and they actually have scoring potential, it's a scary sight for North Melbourne, as you said, who the club's in turmoil at the moment. I probably would be looking at, as I said, the line. Maybe you might look at some small goal kickers for North Melbourne. Just looking at the 1 goal mark, though, you can get a little bit of value, but mainly because Melbourne have deficits again against smaller offensive players. Last week I talked about Shea Bolton to kick a goal and he was sitting at $2. I talked about the Rioli to kick a goal. He kicked one. So small forwards or smaller players that leak through that midfield, kicking goals against Melbourne. But it's North Melbourne, so they might not score at all. But my bet would be with the line in this one, 42.5 if I had to make a play.
42.5, and just hope the wind settles nicely down there at Blundstone before they get their stadium with the roof.
Yep, before they get their roof stadium, hopefully they do a better job with the floor. All right, St Kilda taking on Carlton in the next one. Hopefully you're watching this one, Pez, and not in the delivery room. 2.42 outsiders are the Saints. $1.57 favourites, the Blues. -10.5 is the line. Over under 163.5. Pez. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on this one. Carlton are absolutely raring, but to me, this is a game that would be absolutely circled as a danger game and a potential for St Kilda to cause an upset.
Well, people have been talking to me throughout the week because they know I'm a big St Kilda fan, and they're going, you know what? St Kilda have had the wood over Carlton. They towed them up earlier in the year where Carlton midfielders, as we know, Sauce, just racked it up against the Saints, but it didn't matter because the Saints were in control of that game. But this feels like a different Carlton, and it's also a different St Kilda because they're not the same. But they do have some pretty big ins because Bradley Hill's come off just a 1-week injury. They're bringing in possibly Tim Membry, but the biggest one that could be back is my man Max King. Have a look at that.
Oh, you pulled out the little the bobblehead.
Have a look at him.
That's a good mo. Oh, yeah.
That's a good gem that was found for me during the week. How good's that?
Where'd you find that? I have a whole lot of these in my house that are yours. A Buddy Franklin one. Should have bought that one out.
Yeah, well, for the retirement, yeah.
This is what you give me when anytime I'm talking any bets. You just sit there and just nod.
Oh, I don't listen. That's we've spoken about that in the past, haven't we?
Surely you've got a bet with your prop.
No.
What? No bet?
The only thing I would talk about is the over-under discussion because I think it was 6 or 7 times in a row where St Kilda matches went under, and the under's been pretty low source there at around 160. But last week, St Kilda got their biggest score for many, many weeks, 122 points. They kicked 19 goals, 8, and Hawthorn ended up kicking 14 goals, 9. So it was over 210 points, their source, 215 in total. So what did you say the total sits at live?
163.5.
So it's interesting. Is Ross Lyon going to play the same way against, Carlton? Or is he going to shut the game down like they did last time against the Blues, and is it going to go under 163? So that's the little just learning point that I've got for Sunday when I'm watching the game, as well as just trying to support the team.
I hope it goes under, Pez. I'm all over the under. 163.5. That's a really high for the Saints. The last 8 weeks, last week was an anomaly in that, and you sort of could have predicted that with the way Hawthorn have been playing. They've been a team that has busted them open, and the last time St Kilda's game went over was previously when they played the Hawks in that shock loss that you had earlier in the year. So 163, the market has adjusted for that. St Kilda are playing a side that they're going to be they're going to be mindful of, and they're going to be. Carlton have the power to blow you open as well, so they have the real opportunity to. They'll see this as an easy win for them, and they'll have a chance to blow it open. What Ross Lyon has definitely been doing is against sides that are perceived as better than him. He's really been locking it down. So $1.63 for me. $1.88 is the price. $1.63.5 to go under. I love that. My metrics have it about the game sitting at probably about 155. So we give me 163. I love that. As I said, it's been tracked quite openly and by a lot of bookies and a lot of people that are in the betting industry. The under 150 has been so profitable for St Kilda games this year.
Yeah, and do you take the 163? But this guy might kick 4 or 5 goals, so that might not work too well.
There's no one else kicking goals.
$6.50 to kick 4 and $16 to kick 5. So Max King, if he does even return after that shoulder injury that was meant to, he'd be done for the season.
I don't know about that one, Pez. But I haven't got many bets locked in, but I love the value at 163. So it doesn't matter whether King's in it or out of it. St Kilda will defend hard and contain Carlton. I actually don't even mind the plus 10.5 there.
The Saints.
I think Carlton are due to come up with a little loss. So 242, I reckon. 242. I might even have a little double there, Pez. Your footy tips, that's a good one to pick.
Oh, the footy tips, you reckon?
All right, last game of the round, thank God. Fremantle taking on Brisbane, 258 outsiders. The Dockers, $1.51. Brisbane playing at SBS Stadium, minus 13.5 is the line. Over under 167.5. Pez. I really like Brisbane in this one. I think that last week, there was an interesting move that who's Stewie D's replacement? I can't remember. Stephen King did in tagging Harris. That was a really interesting move. Harris Andrews, tagging him and making him more accountable for things. I mean, I don't think that's what opened up the game as much as it did, but Gold Coast were impressive. Brisbane were disappointing. It'll be a once-off. They'll bounce back against the Dockers.
Yeah, I hope so, because they're making us sweat for our future end-of-season bets. Two more. We just want 2 more wins to get the over 14.5.
They're even making the top 4 a bit of a sweat now.
We want to lock in that top 4, because if we were sitting on 14 wins at the moment, 56 points, it'd be a near certainty that they would be top 4. But if they drop this against Fremantle, who went down to Geelong and beat them last week, then we are in for a massive sweat towards the end of the season. We've got 3 units riding on it in total over the 14.5 and the top 4 there, Sauce. So we want that to happen to boost up our profits for the season. But because it is a Sunday twilight, nothing in it for me at the moment. We know Lachie Neale's got some bruising under the belt as well. So he's not an out though, so he might still play.
He might still play. Once the sides come in, Pez, I'll be very exactly like the doggies bet. I think that $1.51 is a great price if you have got a decent sort of 90% full Brisbane side. So don't worry about where this is played. Fremantle have been really disappointing for a majority of the season, and I put last week's win wasn't that Fremantle impressive, is that Geelong were pretty ordinary. So $1.51. Once the teams come out, I'll be looking to lock that in.
Yeah, and then if this was earlier in the week, teams were there and you saw it, you'd go from there. Fremantle haven't performed over at home either, SBS Stadium.
Haven't performed any of 2023.
Oh, Alphabet Stadium, they performed all right. One out of 1.
Well, not so much for the SBS, the other Alphabet Stadium going around, mate.
Speaking about stadiums, I think it must have been Swamp that put it out, and I read it, is GWS. I didn't speak about it before. They've won at 9 different venues for the season. They're the team that travels the most, and the only other team to beat that is Hawthorn in either the late 80s or early 90s when you had all the suburban grounds still for the Melbourne clubs. So
and the only two games that they haven't won at GWS has been Brisbane and the MCG. So if they play finals, there's an opportunity for them to do that in 2023.
Yeah, to get 10 different
That'd be
venues.
incredible.
That'd be huge. And did they lose to West? They must have beaten Fremantle over there at SBS, because they lost to West Coast over there in round 2.
Well, no, I thought they beat. No, they didn't lose to West Coast, did they?
GWS did round 2, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, they must have beaten Fremantle.
Yeah, they must have beaten Fremantle. Tick that off the list. But very, very interesting. We'll go from there. But I need to tend to.
Did you get a message?
No.
Oh,
but I'm sure I need to.
The water's broken.
I'm sure I need to do something.
You probably don't need to do anything. You probably need to just have a couple of breaths. We can just pretend to podcast if you want before you go in. Your life goes into chaos, mate, and having 2 kids.
I just need to be there. I just need to sit there and just see what happens.
Yeah, I've never seen Pez more in a sweat. I mean, I've seen him with some pretty big bets down or watching the telly, but I've never seen him sweat like he is now. He's struggling.
Oh, I've struggled all night. I don't know if you probably can tell, but it
hasn't been one of your best, mate. Maxi King's done a bit better than you.
Well, my bets, they'll go up there. We had a couple of questions as well before we go on X at Behind the Bound. That sounds stupid,
X,
doesn't it?
Sounds stupid.
Twitter, at Behind the Bound.
X, formerly the social media site as Twitter.
Some punters there saying, when do our bets go up on the spreadsheet? So obviously we want people to listen to the podcast, so they'll go up as late as possible for the games. But for this one, I'll probably have to get the bets that we've put down out now, Sauce, because I don't know if I'll be available over the weekend to be doing anything over the old Twitter, the old X. So at Behind the Bound, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all of that.
Oh, well, I've helped you out, Pez. I've already put one of my bets in there. It just says Saints win under 23. But make sure you jump on all of the social media platforms and give us a like, a follow. Jump onto Apple Music and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Prime Music, any of those great podcast providers. Give us a 5-star review and leave comments so other punters can find us.
I'm Pez. Peace out. I might not see you next week. I don't know.
I'm still
depends what
Sauce.
happens.
We'll still be recording next week either way. So we'll catch up next time.
Now you're gone.